Okay, now, do I start?
Every year, millions of animals are poisoned and killed in barbaric and outdated tests that attempt to evaluate the hazards of various consumer products and their ingredients. The pain, abuse, and fear animals face being the subject of tests for random products such as cosmetics, drugs, and various other toxic substances is one of the most largely inhumane practices occurring in this world and needs to be put to an end. In my speech today, I'm going to persuade my audience as to why the use of animals for experimentation is barbaric and unnecessary. Now is the time to take a stand for those who have no voice by eradicating these tests completely. I'll begin by establishing a need for this topic by describing the specific details of the gruesome toxic procedures these animals endure and describe how these practices most often leave them. Next, I'll provide satisfaction by showing my audience how many animals' lives could benefit immensely by outlawing these practices. After that, I'll provide the steps my audience can take in order to act upon this movement. To conclude, I will offer an opportunity for a plan to action and encourage my audience to follow my steps I provide to make these animals' voices heard. I believe this topic is extremely relevant as the experimentation on animals has only increased and gotten more extreme in recent years. Now is the most relevant time than ever to bring this issue to light. I believe that I am a credible source for this speech topic because I'm a very motivated animal lover who has been a part of many animal activist movements. Ridding the world completely of animal experimentation will clearly benefit these animals enormously. According to PETA, in an article, Product Testing, Toxic and Tragic, in 2012, to determine the danger of a single short-term exposure to a product or chemical, the substance is administered to animals in extremely high doses via force feeding, forced inhalation, and/or eye or skin contact. Animals in the highest dose groups are often endure several abdominal pain, diarrhea, convulsions, seizures, paralysis, or bleeding from the nose, mouth, or genitals before they ultimately die or are killed. According to an animal activist, James Cromwell, in an article titled Animal Experimentation in 2013, another form of testing they undergo is eye and skin irritation and corrosion testing. This is a practice where a substance is dripped onto animals, mostly rabbits or rodents' eyes, or smeared onto their shaved skin. Lab technicians then record the damage, which can include ulcers, bleeding, blindness, and scabs. These are just a select few of the many reported animal experiments that have occurred continuously since the 60s. At any given time, an animal is receiving these kinds of treatments and suffering simply for a product description. Now that I have discussed some of the heinous common practices that are used on animals for experimentation, I would now like to discuss the benefits that would follow banning these practices. The benefits of stopping animal experimentation are numerous. According to the Food and Drug Administration, it is reported that 92 out of every 100 drugs that pass animal testing fail in humans. Because of this, eradicating this practice would not endanger humans in any way more than with this testing, for most of the time is inaccurate anyways. An uncommon fact on experimentation is that it is wasteful. Animal experiments prolong the suffering of people waiting for effective cures by misleading experimenters and squandering precious funds, time, and resources that could have been spent on human-relevant research. If these experiments are wasteful and inaccurate, why are we still abusing these animals and forcing them to be under experimentation? According to a report conducted by PETA in 2016, more than 100 million animals, including mice, cats, frogs, rabbits, hamsters, guinea pigs, monkeys, fish, and birds, are killed in the U.S. labs for biology lessons, medical training, cosmetics, food, drug, and pure curiosity testing. Now that I have discussed the benefits of stopping these experiments, I will move on to the steps you yourself can follow to fight against these practices. Imagine the millions of animals who would be set free from this torture and avoid certain death. There are many steps you can take in order to help these animals achieve this. Quit smoking. It may sound completely unrelated, but companies like R.J. Reynolds and Philip Morris continue to force rats to undergo nasty experiments in order to develop new cigarettes. According to PETA, experimenters at universities pump cigarette smoke into dogs' lungs and addict pregnant monkeys to nicotine in order to study smoking-related diseases. You heard that right. Experimenters are actually addicting pregnant monkeys to nicotine to study the effects. Spay, neuter, and adopt. According to an article titled How to Save Animals in Laboratories, many corporations which use animals for experimentation purchase homeless animals from shelters to torment them with these experiments. Spaying and neutering your animal companions, as well as promoting animal adoption, help to cut off this supply of cheap lab equipment. People really can make a difference. PETA's recent success in stopping pound seizures in Utah saved countless of animals from a horrible death in a lab. Donate to cruelty-free charities. Donating to charities is the surest way to help these animals directly. The Humane Society is a huge advocate for animals' rights, especially in the animal experimentation area. The ASPCA is another charity. This one is directly related to animal cruelty and will help the most in regards to experimentation matters. In conclusion, this cruel multi-million-dollar industry simply is unethical and must come to an end. The pain and abuse animals undergo being used as experiments must be seen as it truly is, inhumane, cruel, and must be stopped. Today I discuss the horrible experiments commonly used on animals having the misfortune of landing themselves in a laboratory used for animal experimentation. I described how these practices have proved to be inaccurate and even wasteful to humans themselves. The benefits from setting free these animals and ceasing to experiment would not only improve their lives, but also benefit humans. I covered the steps we can take to fight against these corporations who force animals into this cruelty and called for action to donate to charities who specifically fight for these animals' rights. The world doesn't need another eyeliner, soap, food ingredient, drug for erectile dysfunction, or pesticide so desperately that it should come at the expense of millions of animals' lives and suffering. Be proactive and fight against the use of experimentation on animals.
Paraphrase this message.